Well, good morning from Phuket, and it's been a while since I last did a proper video for my motovlog channel, but I'm pleased to say today is going to be the first one that I've done as a full length video. I did a short introduction to the bike. We're going to be going out, we're going to go down to the southern part of Phuket and then make our way up the west side of Phuket, the coast side, taking in Kata, Karon Patong, and we'll see where we end up. I'm going to be going on my new bike, which is the Benelli Leoncino 500. I've had it now a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and I'm really pleased with it. It's a really nice bike to ride, a lot easier riding than my Kawasaki Z1000. Of course, the bike itself is lighter than the Kawasaki, but it's more manageable, it's not as aggressive. I haven't really done anything to the bike. The only thing that I want to do to the bike at a little bit later stage is take off the catalytic converter here and just put a link piece in there. They do sell them out here and I can get them, but I shall do that maybe in a couple of months time. The bike is standard apart from the radiator shield, and I might change that actually because it vibrates at low RPM because it just slots in. It's not a very firm mounting, unfortunately, so I might change that, but that's about it. The only other things that I've done to the bike in the last few weeks is a phone mount and of course my camera mounts. Now you're going to be using two today, one pointing forward, one pointing at myself, and I have got a third camera which I'm going to use on the peg, but it won't be today because I've got to buy some batteries for that camera because I haven't used the cameras for 3 years, and unfortunately the batteries for that particular camera won't seem to charge up and don't want to hold any charge, so I'm going to have to get a couple of batteries for that camera, but again that'll be in a couple of weeks. But I've got two on the bike, and I've also got this one that'll be in my rucksack if I decide to jump off the bike anywhere and do a little bit of filming. But for now, let's get on the bike and go a ride. Okay, so we're off and we're going to make our way first of all to the Shillong Island, and then from there we're going to make our way down towards Rawai and then follow the coast all the way up and see how far we get. To be honest, I haven't really been that far on the bike. Rawai is the furthest I've been so far. I just haven't really had the time. So today is going to be finding out a little bit about the bike. As I say, I've had it a couple of weeks. I'm very impressed with it up to now, but I haven't been any real distance on it. I haven't tried it on a run, so to speak. I filled it up the other day. I've done 126 kilometers just running around backwards and forwards to the business and just the local area, and I'm sort of seeing how far I can go on a full tank of petrol. It's a 12.7 litre tank on the bike, and there's 2 bars off the gauge gone already, so I've got another 4 to go and see how many kilometres I get out of it, and then that will give me a rough idea of what the bike is doing mileage wise. But it rides really nice. I'm very impressed with it. It's low mileage, as I mentioned on the other video. I've had a real good buy with it. A bit of a leap of faith really, buying it without actually seeing the bike first in the flesh, so to speak. I did see it on video, but it's not the same as actually seeing it with your own 2 eyes. But it gave me a rough idea, but because the bike had done such low mileage, I felt that it was worth taking the risk, and it seems to have paid off. No major problems with the bike so far, and it's a really comfortable bike to ride. Even the wife says she likes it on the back, which really surprised me because she's not keen on big bikes at all. She didn't like my Kawasaki. I have got to keep an eye on my speed because if I go too fast on it, the wind noise inside the helmet gets too much and the microphone won't be able to pick up my voice very clear. So when I do a little bit of a narration, I shall need to slow down and keep it below 60 kilometers an hour really. Anything after that and the wind starts to get a little bit too much for the microphone. I have tried it in my other helmet, which is my new helmet. This is a spare, but there's some vents on the front of it. Love the helmet, but the vents cause a little bit of a whistling noise when you're moving along. It doesn't bother me, it's not that loud, but of course the microphone picks that up straight away. So when I'm vlogging, I've got to use my spare helmet, which is a full face, as you can see on the camera, and it's not a bad little helmet, to be fair. And you can close the vent at the front, and that helps cut down some of the wind noise. But it's actually a very comfortable bike to ride, 500cc, so half the power of my Kawasaki. But having said that, it feels more than enough power for what I need here in Thailand. The Kawasaki was too much, if I'm honest. It's a very aggressive bike. It was quite intimidating because of the power of the bike, and it was difficult to ride it at low speeds because it wanted to go fast all the time. And of course going fast over here is dangerous, like many other countries, but more so in Thailand. The standard of riding and driving over here isn't as good, so you do have to be very careful on the roads, and of course the faster you're going, the less time you have to react to a situation. So we've just passed the Shillong Island, or roundabout, whichever you want to call it, and we are now heading down towards the Rawai. Looks like there's something going on here to the one side, an ambulance outside a super cheap. Don't know what's happened there. Don't know whether it's an accident or somebody's just fainted or not feeling very well. Not quite sure. Don't think it's a motorbike accident, there's no motorbike about. Maybe somebody just not feeling very well. Now I hope I've got the camera set up right. I've been playing around with them for a week or so on and off, trying to find the best mounting positions, and unfortunately the only place I can get these particular cameras is on the handlebars, because anywhere else I mount them on the bike apart from the rear foot peg, there's too much vibration for my cameras. My action cameras are getting old now, they're about 5 or 6 years old, so stabilisation isn't as good as the newer ones, It's okay, they do the job, but they're not fantastic, so I am a little bit limited on where I can put them, but I'm hoping to update the cameras over the next sort of 6 or 8 months and buy some newer ones. So we're right on the edge of Rawai now. This is quite a large district here in Phuket, to be honest. It does stretch quite a way. In fact, the Nahom is in the actual Rawai district. So we're going to make our way down towards the beach area of Rawai first. It's not the best beach on the island by a long way, but it's okay. We sometimes bring Shadow down here for a walk. It's quite nice enough. And then we're going to go along to Pomtem Cape, Nahom, into the top of Kata, then into Karon, up to Patong, and that sort of direction. Lovely weather here today, which makes a change. The last 2.5 weeks the weather hasn't been great. It is the rainy season now, so you have to expect some rain, but we have had our fair share in the last 2.5 weeks. Yesterday was a nice day, and today is looking even better still than yesterday. Very warm, a little bit of a breeze, but not too hot, so it's made an ideal day to come out on the bike actually. So we're now coming into what I would call the main part of Rawai, right near to the beach. You'll see the sea in a moment when we go around the next bend. Just see it there. It's a nice area. This area, a lot of expats live here, so it seems very popular with people that are coming over to live here. Rawai is not exactly a cheap area. Shillong and Wichit is probably the cheapest, followed by Kata and then maybe Rawai. But generally Phuket, the island of, is not that cheap to other parts of Thailand. It's actually quite an expensive area to live. In fact, I would go as far as say Phuket is probably the most expensive part of Thailand outside of Bangkok. Of course, Bangkok can be very expensive, but it can be cheap as well, whereas Phuket doesn't tend to be so cheap. But a nice area, a reasonable beach. The only trouble with this beach area, they have a lot of boats parking up here, not only the speed boats but the long tail boats, because it's a fishing community, so of course the fishermen moor up their boats in the evening time and they're always in. But it's okay, it's a nice area, there's plenty of things to see and do around this area, reasonable shopping facilities, and you're not that far away from the main shopping malls and the supermarkets, etc. So talking a little bit about the bike, I do find the actual handling of the bike a little bit better than the Kawasaki. I'll be honest with you, straight away I've noticed that. It seems to be more planted on the road. The Kawasaki was a little bit more twitchy, if that's the right word, but that was mainly because I had the setting of the suspension on the softest setting the Kawasaki would allow, simply because the roads over here in Thailand are not the greatest and they shake you to bits. Sometimes you get a nice piece of tarmac like we're on now, and other times the roads are atrocious. And on a sports bike, the suspensions, even on the softer settings, is still on the firm side, and it still shook me about too much really. It wasn't that comfortable a bike to ride. It was a fast bike, great bike, but there were some things on it that wasn't so suitable for the roads over here, and the suspension was a little bit on the firm side really, whereas this suspension seems a lot more softer. It is fully adjustable on this bike. I haven't yet adjusted it. I wanted to get it set up properly at some stage. I've just left it as it was, to be honest, and it seems okay. It seems very, very firm on the road, very nice to ride. So we're now coming down to an area known as Cape Tem, and this is a nice area to come late afternoon, just before the sun sets, and watch the sunset go down and the sun sink into the sea. Can be very busy in this area in the evening times, especially in the high season. A lot of people, even coach trips, come here. There are a few restaurants that you can dine at as well and take in the view. Very, very popular. It is again still in the district of Rawai, and that's just now in front, Tem. I actually want to do a video on this area for my main channel, because it's a nice place to come, as I say, and have a meal and maybe a few drinks. Bring some of your own food and drink. There's a few areas where you can sit, and it's really nice. There's an area called the Windmill Viewpoint as well, which we'll pass shortly. That's another area that you can come and view. In front there is Naham Beach in the distance, just over there, and we also have Yanui Beach as well, just at the bottom of this hill. You can see the windmill there in the distance. Well, it's actually one of those wind generator turbine things, and they call it the Windmill Viewpoint. That's a nice place to go, as I say, and take a bit of food and drink and just watch that sunset. But you really need a clear sky in the afternoon, not cloud, because obviously it blocks the sunset. But if you pick the right day, it can be very nice. As I say, I'm only going to be taking my time today, because when I'm narrating I have to keep the speed below really 60 kilometers an hour, because it just gets too much wind in the helmet. Yanui Beach now, just to the left. It's a nice beach, only small but very, very nice, very popular and extremely busy in the high season. Nice roads along here, actually the coast road. There's some twisties, some hills. I'm not going to be going fast today, as I mentioned, because I'm really getting the feel for the bike and the equipment that I'm using, my cameras, and make sure everything's working okay, because I haven't used the vlogging stuff on the bike for 3 years since I sold my Kawasaki. I've done a little bit with the scooters, but it just wasn't the same for me. I used to go out on Charlie, as it was called, a Sam Law sidecar and scooter, and that's the windmill viewpoint there, and then you go down into Nahom, which is one of the better beaches on the island. I'm not going to say the best beach because it's always down to personal choice, but I think Nahom is a cracking beach, really nice. Lots of facilities there. There's an area where you can go in the afternoon, the park area, and have a barbecue, and just a really nice place Nahom is. It's just great to be back out on a bike, on a big bike. It's just not the same on the scooters. They're very practical, I will say that. Scooters are by far more practical than this bike or any big bike. I mean, this bike, there is nowhere to store any luggage, anything that you want to bring with you. There isn't even a place where you can hook your helmet to, and I mean, that's just crazy. I don't know what these bike manufacturers are thinking when they build these bikes, that people only use them on a Sunday just to go a ride and then go home and that's it. You know, I want to buy a bike and use it every day. That's the main reason why I sold the Kawasaki, because it wasn't a very practical bike. It was too heavy. Not ideal for just popping to the shops, that's for sure. Not that type of bike, I guess. It was really more of a Sunday bike, going out for a run on it, and it was a great bike for that, but that's about all it was. And I'm not that type of person. I want to use my bike every day or most days if I can. Obviously if it's absolutely pouring down with rain, then I'm not going to use the bike. I'll go in the car. But I've got, the first thing I bought when I bought this bike was waterproofs. I'm not scared to ride a bike in the rain. I think, you know, as long as it's not torrential rain, then it's okay. I'm a bike person. I don't really want to go out in the car. I don't like the traffic here in Phuket, for one thing, and in a car you just can't get around it. So I want to use the bike as much as possible, but it's not very practical. There's no underseat storage like there is on the scooters. The PCX that we own, we've got a rear box for, which is great because you can put your helmets in. Again, there's nowhere on this bike to put helmets. For the time being, I've bought a little lock, like a cable lock that goes through the handlebars and loops through either the full face helmet or the helmet ring. I'm going to go down towards the beach here so you get a look at the Nahom beach. Not a close look, but if you follow my other channel you will know Nahom beach, because I've covered it several times. Let's just get round this car here. People exercising there, very popular area for exercise. I've got to keep an eye on my other camera, because the Olympus tracker, it's not a bad camera, but when it's on HD it only records for 27 minutes, and when it's on 4K it only records for 14 minutes. You can press the record button straight away as soon as it clicks off and it'll re-record, but it's got a time limit on it and it's really annoying. It's not. I used to use it as the rear facing camera. I've actually got 4 cameras, but the one action camera I now use, and I've modified to allow me to use it on my main channel, so I don't really want to use that now again on my bike, because it's a few things modified to it. Basically the battery I've hooked a lead that can run off a power bank permanently as a main battery rather than through the USB port on it. So I forget what I was talking about now. Storage on the big bikes. Yeah, I was talking about that. So yeah, I want to get a frame. Unfortunately I've got to have one made for this bike. There are a couple of places selling them, but they're quite expensive. I'm going to see whether on Tuesday whether I can find somewhere that'll make one to the bike. There's somewhere in Bangkok that'll do it, but they want the bike. They have made frames for this model, but they obviously haven't kept the blueprint or the drawing of it. So I phoned them up and they said, yeah, we can do it, but you'll need to bring the bike. Well, that's not convenient because I'm not going to Bangkok at the minute. So that cancelled that place out, which was a bit of a shame. So I've got to try and find somewhere in Phuket. Failing that, I'll have to order it from China off AliExpress, which is the shopping version of Alibaba, I think it is. What we have out here, they have got them for sale on there, but I've got to ship it over and one thing and another. So I'm going to see whether I can get it made first. It might be easier. If not, then I will have to buy it from there, and then once I've got that frame I can then mount a rear box, which will give me some luggage storage, either for the helmets or for equipment that I'm taking with me. Like at the moment I've got a rucksack on my back. Try not to put too much in it and make it too heavy, because it's quite warm over here, to say the least. Even in the rainy season now, it's still quite warm, and your back just gets all sweaty and wet and not very nice. So I have got some side bags that I used to use on the PCX. They wouldn't fit on the Kawasaki, and that bike was not ideal for luggage. Still got the same problem with this one really though. But hopefully if I can get the frame made and then put a rear box on, that'll help. And then when I'm going further afield and need to carry more luggage, I'm going to try the side bags. If not, I can get some side panniers. Again, I have to have a frame made up for this bike, because obviously I've got all my camera equipment as well as clothing. I want sometimes my wife to come with me, Nat. She's more comfortable on this bike and more happier than my Kawasaki. She just didn't like that. I think she was just scared of it basically, because it was such a fast bike. Even though I didn't ride it fast with her on it, but she was just scared of it, I think. And the fact that the rear seat's tiny, it's not really ideal for a passenger. Not very comfortable, especially for longer distance. This seat's a lot more comfortable both for myself and for a passenger, and even that's commented the bike feels a lot better, more comfortable and everything. So, and the suspension's a lot softer. You don't feel the bumps like you did on the Kawi. One thing you have to watch when you're riding over here, especially in Phuket, is sand on the roads, because it gets brought down from, obviously when it rains, there's sand in the rain, and it's put onto the top of the road surface, and it can make the surfaces of the road very slippy. Even though you'll go looking at the road and thinking, yeah, that's great tarmac, I can go around there quite quick, you'll be surprised there's a layer of sand on the top, and you can very easily start to bike to slide. I've had it a few times and catch me out, and that's why I'm always cautious, more so here in Phuket, because I know it's something that we have a problem with on the road. You'll see a lot of sand on the roads. You could probably just make some out there on the bend, and it can make the bends quite dangerous and catch you out. So if you're new to riding over here in Thailand, particularly in Phuket, a few things to watch out for is like the sand. It doesn't really matter how good a rider you are, these things can catch you out unawares. I've got a friend, Patrick, I mean he races bikes on the track. He's got some big bikes himself and a big garage where he does all the work on it himself, and he's come off over here in Phuket because he went round the bend too fast and there was like sand on the surface, and the bike just slid away from him. So it can happen, and that's why I say you do have to be aware of it. If you're a new rider, it's something to keep in mind. As you ride more and more, you just get to know these little things. And the other thing you have to watch for is oil on the road, because people carry oil drums and stuff like that on bikes and trucks, and they're not properly sealed, and they leak out, and the oil leaks onto the road, and it can be extremely dangerous. I've seen it happen where I used to live. There was a bend not far, and one day must have been a truck or something come past, and it was leaking all oil out of one of the drums, and then about 12 people following the lorry went round the bend, and they all come off one after another, and we had to sort of flag them down and stop them until the road was clean. They had to call the fire brigade and clean all the oil off the road, because it wasn't like an oil spill as such, it was just drips and drops, and it gets on the tyres and makes them really slippery. Let me get past this saddle up. There we go. So we've gone through Nahom, and we are now on the way towards Kata. Quiet at the moment here in Phuket because of course it's now low season, the rainy season as it's known over here. You do get rain because that's why it's called the rainy season. People seem to think they can come to Thailand or Phuket and just get sunshine all the time, and unfortunately that isn't the case. You do get rain in the rainy season. How much and how often, that's impossible to say. The last 2 weeks have been quite bad, which is unusual for the start of the rainy season, because the rainy season sort of starts around May time, end of April, beginning of May, but it's normally not too bad until sort of July, August, and then we get more rain in those months. But this year we've had quite a lot of rain in May and the beginning of June. But I'm glad to say it's cleared up today. The last few days haven't been too bad. It's going to allow me to get out on the bike, put a few miles on her, get used to her. Gonna have to do a trip down to Krabi because I haven't been there for quite some time, especially on a big bike, and then maybe look at going to Koh Lanta, Koh Samui. These are places that are fairly local to Phuket, sort of 600 kilometres radius, that sort of area. So Samui is about 600, I think it is, from Phuket, something like that. And then of course over time I want to do a lot more travelling throughout Thailand in general. Probably go up to Chiang Mai from Phuket on the bike at some stage. I don't know when that'll be, but that's a long way. I have of course done Mukdahan on the Kawasaki. That was 1735 kilometres one way. Oops, what's going on here? Oh, it's got an ADV, one of those buggies, I think. Some buggies in front here, quite popular around here. Let's get around these. Something you might want to have a go at. Great fun in the rainy season when it's wet, get covered in mud. Trying to see if the other camera's still working. It is. The only trouble where they're mounted, I can't quite see the red lights very easy. The one camera I can see the top of the red light, but with the bright sunlight I can't actually see whether it's flashing red or not. It's quite difficult to see unless if there's a bit of shade, and then you can see it. So this is called the Karon viewpoint. I don't know why it's called the Karon viewpoint, even though it overlooks Kata. You can see Karon in the distance. Just one of those Thai things, I think. We just passed that. And now we're working our way down into Kata. Big Buddha there on the hill. still showing only 2 bars gone on the petrol gauge, so it seems to be reasonably good. It's coming up to 150 kilometres since the full tank, just 2 bars off for those 150 kilometres. It'll be nice to know the range of the bike for when I do longer trips. And obviously you've got to keep an eye on the petrol and where the petrol stations are, because here in Phuket there's no problem with petrol stations, they're everywhere, but obviously in parts of Thailand there isn't so many available, so you do have to sort of work out how far you can get and where the petrol stations are and when you need to fill up, because if you miscalculate it you can end up very easily running out of petrol. In some parts of Thailand there's, you know, very little at all for quite some distance. Looking over the top of Kata down there, that's nice view from here. A few bars around here and restaurants, quite expensive though, I will say, here in this area. In fact, overly expensive if I'm honest. A few new places opened up by the looks of it. Sun Deck, that's a new place. So now we're entering the top part of Kata. And at the bottom of this hill you can turn left and go down to Kata, or you can turn right and go into Kata, the main area. Gonna have a ride past Kata's beach. Haven't been for a few weeks. Now I bought this bike from Bangkok basically because they're cheaper. Everything you buy here in Phuket you pay Phuket prices, so they can be dearer, including motorbikes. I bought it second hand, so it's the same with the second hand market. You normally pay a little bit more here in Phuket. I suppose it's because there's less available and they can get more price for the items. But I bought this one from Bangkok, and I will be doing a video showing how to register a bike, a second-hand bike, because you need to register it obviously in your name, but you also end up having the number plate changed as well as part of the registration, because if you're living here in Phuket they end up giving you a Phuket number plate, so the number plate on this bike will be changed because it's a Bangkok registration. I did that, well, we started it last week, and normally you'd think you'd do it in a day or a few hours, and normally you do, but they're a nightmare with the paperwork over here in Thailand, and if there's anything not quite right you end up having to go away and do it again. And the guy that we bought it off, he got given us all the paperwork, but he printed 1 or 2 items off the computer and they wouldn't allow that. They wanted the originals, and of course being in Bangkok he's had to then do it again and send it to Phuket through the post. He's working, so you have to wait for people, and it turned into having to go 3 times to the Land Transport Office, and I've got to go now on the 12th to pick up the new number plate, have that put on the bike, and the green book that will be in our name. So hopefully that will be sorted in a week. So next week I can get all that's finally finished, but I'm going to do a short video explaining how to do it, because it isn't a straightforward thing like it is in the UK and other countries where you just have one document to deal with. You sign it and get the owner to sign it, and that's the end of it. Not in Thailand, unfortunately. It's not that straightforward. So this is Kata Beach. While I'm waffling, I'm going to have a ride down here and have a look at how busy it is. It doesn't look too busy at the minute. I've re-tarmacked this, I can see. That's nice, because this road wasn't very good, to be fair. But the actual process of changing the registration, I always say it here in Thailand, the most simplest things are the most complicated. Can be a bit frustrating. You also have to take it in and have it tested, as it's the equivalent of an MOT test basically when you're buying a second-hand bike. Even if it's been tested, you have to change of owner, they want you to have it retested. So I had to have that done. It only takes sort of 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The guy could see it was very low mileage on it, it was all standard, so he didn't bother checking the sound, the decibels on the exhaust. If you change the exhaust and they can see you've got an aftermarket one, they'll test the sound level, because there's a level that you've got to be below, or else they won't give you the test certificate. They tell you to go and change the exhaust. So I didn't get a problem with that. He just quickly checked the brakes and just a general check that the frame code, the chassis number and the engine number were correct to the green book, and that was it really. It sort of took 20 minutes, but there was a massive queue. Luckily they got a separate area for bikes. There was loads waiting for the cars, and then I thought that'd be it. But then when we went from the test to the other department, the woman said, no, we've had the regulations change, we can't accept documents printed off the computer, they've got to be like actual photocopies. I don't know what the difference is, but it's just the way it works here. A little bit frustrating at times, so we had to go away and get the necessary documents that they were happy with, which we went and did yesterday morning. And I had to pay 760 baht, which includes the test fee, because you have to pay normally for that, and also the new number plate, you have to pay for that, and obviously the change of owner, you have to pay for that over here. So that was for everything. So 760 baht is what it costs. So it still worked out, because I've had a good buy on the bike and I've still saved money. It's a little bit of hassle, but Nat wanted me to buy a new bike, but I'll be honest with you, after my Kawasaki, I bought that brand new and I lost a lot of money on that bike when I come to sell it. I'm not keen on buying new bikes over here, or new cars, because you do lose quite a lot of money on them, to be fair. And I didn't want to buy another new bike. She wasn't keen on having me buying second-hand bike, because sometimes people don't look after them, and I understand that, you know, not everybody, especially over here, people buy them and they don't want to spend the money on the servicing. But I'm sort of got that background to know what I need to look for and make sure that everything's okay. So I've got a little bit of a heads up, so it wasn't so bad for me. And now Nat said, oh yeah, you know, she's changed her mind about that as well. Now, as long as you're careful and you take your time, I didn't rush it. I looked at a lot of bikes, couldn't really make up my mind where I wanted to go from the Kawasaki. I wanted something different, not the same as the Kawasaki, and something that I really liked. And it took me a while. I tested quite a few, as I've mentioned in my group, and I finally settled on this. And as I say, I think I made the right choice. Up to now, I have. No question about that, I've made the right choice. And only time will tell, obviously, as I ride it more and more, I'll know. Just check whether this camera's still working. I think it's gone off again. Yeah, another 27 minutes, I think, whatever the time limit is. So now we're in Karon, and we're just riding along the beach. Quite a bit of surf today, and big waves there. I don't see anybody in the sea. Red flags out, yes, I can see red flags. Not a good day for going in the sea. The red flags. Let's just stop here. Let's see what we got. 42 minutes on the Sony. So yeah, that'd be about right. Switching off twice. Check my pocket where my audio recorder is, and make sure the zip's not working way down. I don't want that to fall out of the pocket. I think what I'm going to do today is make my way up to Patong, and we'll stop there with the video for today, because otherwise it's going to be extremely long, because it's already 42 minutes long. I I'll probably edit some of it down, shorten it down a little bit, or otherwise you'll be falling asleep and be bored stiff. But hopefully I can start making a lot more videos now on the bike and going out and about to different places. I need to do some for my main channel as well. I've been a bit not lazy the last couple of weeks, but I've had so much to sort out. I haven't really had the time to go out and do the videoing with the bike and one or two other things that we've been sorting out. So I need to get my arse into gear and sort that out. What I might do is come back the other way from Patong over the hill, not the coastway. The coastway is the little bit longer way. And come back the other way, I think, and then it's a decent run for the bike today. I want to get off the island as when I can. I'll probably visit Phang Nga, go down to Phang Nga and take a look around there. And that's a lovely area, Phang Nga. And it's about an hour, just over an hour away, depending on how fast you go. And now there's sometimes a police check round here. Just as you're leaving Karon, there's normally a police check. There haven't been so many about lately because we're going in low season. But there's one around there today. Nothing to worry about as long as you're all legal, you've got the correct license, etc. Then you have nothing to worry about over here. The police just check your license, mainly your international license. Obviously I've got a Thai license, so they just check that. But as long as you've got that international permit and your driving license, you're good to go really, as long as you stay on the right side of the law. It's people that without the licenses that they're really interested in. Of course they get fined. Normally there's one just after this bend on the road. They check, there is, well, they're finished, well, either finished or they're putting it out. Yeah, they're just putting it up, so they're just getting set up. So they'll be, normally it's around lunchtime coming up, that sort of, it's 10:28 in the morning, so it's still a little bit early, sort of 11 o'clock onwards, 11 till about 1 you can expect police checks to be about. They're obviously looking at tourists mainly because they know a lot of the tourists don't have the correct licenses. So now we're working our way down towards Patong, and I'm going to ride along the beach road, and then at the end of beach road I'm going to call it a day for this video. As I say, it's the first one I've done in a while, a longer one. So bear with me, I am going to try and get back into it now I've got the bike, try and produce a few more regular ones. So if you enjoy this sort of stuff, then don't forget to give it the old thumbs up, please, because it does help with the videos and the channel and YouTube search, etc. And of course, if you enjoy the content, then please do consider subscribing. I'm going to hopefully build this channel up like my other one over a period of time. I'm going to try and make this interesting on the bike, not just riding around like today, but trying to do all the stuff on the bike and maintenance and different things connected to motorbikes. Obviously rides out to different areas. Try and get up to Kosok National Park, because that's a beautiful area, fantastic place to ride a bike around. The scenery is just unbelievable. So we're just coming into Patong now, coming down the hill. So this is Patong, or at least the edge of it. I'm going to turn left here, it's a little roundabout, and go down towards the beach. I might call in and see if my friend Pete's about, the guy who used to ride the BMW. He's also sold his bike now as well, and he's thinking about maybe possibly getting a Honda ADV 350 or something like that. I did look at that myself, but I just didn't want another scooter. I wanted a proper bike. But he's thinking about getting one of those, so he might come out and about sometimes. He's only got a PCX, but he's also got a car as well, or a truck if you want to call it, rather than a car. I don't know where this guy's going. He's indicating right, but going left. So we're coming down towards the beach area now in Patong. You can just see there one of the paragliding going off, or parasailing, whatever it's called. I never know what it's called. And this has been a good test for the cameras. A little bit of a run for the bike, not too far. And there is Patong Beach, actually a nice beach here in Patong. It is a very nice beach, well worth visiting if ever you're out this way. A reasonable amount of people for low season on there, not packed by any means, but there's people on there I can see. 10:30 in the morning, beautiful. This is the life, no doubt. Definitely this is the life. What's going on here with the cement truck? It's got an unusual way of parking. Is there a road there? Maybe he's going down the road. It sort of stopped. Probably not sure where he's going. So we're going to make our way along Beach Road, and as I say, as I come towards the end of it, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to go past Bangla Road, famous Bangla Road, of course, here in Patong. A lovely, lovely day. Lovely. Try and find somewhere to park down here. I can take my cameras off the bike and etc. if I'm going to go and call in and see my friend Pete. I don't know whether he'll be about. I'll try and phone him first. Masseurs along here if you're looking for a nice massage. Plenty of girls about. Got an itch. Got it. So let me know your thoughts, any ideas you might have that you want to see on the channel, obviously connected to the bike, etc., riding around, that type of thing. I think any places you wouldn't mind taking a look at, or rides to look at. If you're coming over here, maybe you've got a bike and you're thinking about doing a little bit of touring around, you want to know some different areas or what it's like, etc., drop some comments down below. And we're coming to the end now, so I'm going to call it a day. As I say, this is more of a test really, the full first one, but it's a proper video. I just wanted to make sure everything's working okay, and it all seems to be good, and hopefully the sounds come out okay, because I've been working on that for a few days as well, getting the mic in the right position in the helmet, etc., using the right mics, and that's about it. So until next time, you take care, have a great day, and I will catch you on the next one.